What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Counteract USA podcast. My name is Allison Lind. I'm the host of the Thursday People and NYC segment. Today, I am bringing you guys another interview with someone who is, one, a person, and two, based out of NYC. So we're hitting both categories of my segment today. We're interviewing my longtime, one of my best friends from back home. Her name is Alina, and we met in high school doing theater, and then she lived in California for a bit. She has been in the city, and the past year she's actually been traveling on contract post-grad and working actively in the industry as a Christian. And so in this interview, I talked to her a lot about her testimony. We hear kind of the tips that she has and some cool stories that she has from working in the industry as a Christian, and basically just how do we navigate industries such as the arts industry, which is so hostile. How do we navigate it as Christians, and how do we live in the nuance, right, of like loving our neighbors but always standing on what's true? And how do you like stay in that space, keep those doors open? I don't know. We get into it all. And it's a really good conversation. It's been a long time coming. We've wanted to do podcast things for a long time. So to finally get to interview her was really special, and I hope that you guys enjoy it as much as I did. It's a little chaotic because we're sharing one microphone. I've got to figure out my tech situation for interviewing people, because if you guys haven't noticed, the audio in my last couple interviews has not been great because it's been on Zoom or online. And yeah, so just thank you for continuing to bear with me as I figure out the audio situation with the podcast. I'm so excited to continue this journey of interviewing people. Can't wait to see what we get into in the next couple months. I have an opening. Not an opening, but I have room in the schedule right now to figure out who I'm going to be interviewing for the rest of August and September. So if you guys have anyone that you think I should reach out to, please DM me on Instagram. My information is in the description of the show, or DM the Counteract Instagram and let us know people that you would love to hear come on the podcast. It would be super helpful for me for planning, but also would be really great to bring you guys people that you want to hear from. So please reach out to us if that's something you're interested in, if you know of anyone. And now we're going to get into the interview, but I do have to tell you about our amazing sponsors, Patriot Mobile. You know them, you love them. You haven't switched to them yet? I don't know why. You should, because they are actually America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. And they like to put their cause ahead of their profits. So they care more about you, the customer, than they do about getting money from you and then putting it into causes you don't support. They offer dependable nationwide coverage, which gives you access to all three major networks, which means you get the exact same coverage you've been accustomed to without funding a lot of the organizations that all of the main wireless providers support. When you give them your money, you don't have to stress about where it's going because you're in safe hands. Their customer service team is 100% US based, and they make it super easy to switch. You can keep your phone, your plan, your number, and their team will help you find the best plan to fit your needs. All you have to do is go to patriotmobile.com/counteract or call 972-PATRIOT. Once again, that is patriotmobile.com/counteract or call 972-PATRIOT. Get free activation when you use the offer code Counteract USA. Join us and make the switch today. All right, guys, let's get into this awesome interview. So, thank you so much for joining me, Ash. For the listeners, hold on.
Yeah, we totally should. The one mic thing is going to be weird.
I know. That's what I'm like.
Because I was going to be like, yeah.
Thanks for having me. But then how am I like, thanks for coming?
Yeah.
I know. Okay. Just for the listeners, for reference, we're passing one microphone back and forth because apparently I bought this adapter for two microphones, but apparently you need a USB, not a USB. You need like an interface, an audio interface, and I do not have that, so.
The thing is, I have one.
Really?
In my storage unit.
Womp womp, bro.
I could have gotten it.
Oh.
If we had known.
Yeah. That's okay. I didn't know. That's okay. So anyways, bear with us if there's awkward pauses in the conversation. That's why, because we're passing a microphone. But thank you for having grace with us. We will figure out. We'll have a more professional setup someday, eventually, when you guys like and subscribe and listen to this podcast so that we get sponsors to buy studio space.
Okay,
all right. That's my plug for you guys. So go subscribe right now. And then we're going to get into our lovely interview with my bestie, Ash. Thank you so much for coming onto this podcast. My first question for you is, who are you and what do you do?
Well, like you said, my name's Ash. I just want to say also, this has been a long time coming because the amount of discussions that we have on this couch, very similar to what we're going to talk about today. So I'm very excited to be here. So I am Ash. I am a New York City-based performer. I do musicals primarily, but kind of want to do the whole thing. So that is who I am.
Awesome. That's all you got? She's like, is that all I'm saying? No. I just didn't want to cut you off before you were like, yeah. Yeah, Ash is a performer. She's been we met through theater, bonding over like how once the musical just reminded us I can't speak. Guys, it's been a long day at work.
Once the musical reminded us of these boys that we liked in high school.
Yeah.
That broke our hearts. And oh, thank God that they did. Because imagine if we were still with those boys that we were with in high school, we would not be here today.
No, we would not.
We would be somewhere far, far away.
Far away from here. Yeah. So that's how we bonded, though. And obviously, then we were like, oh my gosh, you're a Christian? I'm a Christian. I was nominally a Christian. And then we fell out of touch for a while, for like the last couple years of high school. And then Ash moved home. And you'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But, yeah, Ash is like a big, if you would listen to my testimony episode, like she's a big reason why I like walked, like truly gave my life to Christ, because the Lord put her in my heart to call one day when I was in a particularly low season. I'm not going to tell you too many details because you have to go listen to the episode. And I called her.
I'm just today
ruthlessly plugging because you guys, this podcast is doing so well. Thank you, listeners. But like, I just cannot wait to see where this goes, and your support is going to like help us grow. And yeah, so I'm really just plugging relentlessly today. I didn't do my Peter Piper picked up peppers before this episode.
She's not an actor anymore.
I'm not. I'm an ex-actor. But yeah.
Yeah, this I think segues really nicely into the whole testimony.
Yeah.
Because like Allison said, I'm a big part of her testimony, and she came in to my life during a huge part of my testimony. So we really were kind of that for each other and a big spiritual help, I think, getting into our faith. So I think I'll talk a little bit about that.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Talk away. I'm going to check on the camera, but talk.
Okay, sounds good. So, like we said, good?
Yeah.
Okay. Like we said, I'm a performer here in New York City, and I've always wanted to do performing. We met performing, but when I was about 12 years old, I got really sick, and after 7 years of being undiagnosed, 7 is a biblical number. I have a whole thing on this on my old podcast called Trust Your Gut, if you want to go listen to the full story. I'm doing the quick, I'm doing the quick version, but I got really sick, and by the time I was 18, I was graduated in, and I was ready to start performing and do things, and I got so much worse that I was told I was never going to be able to perform, couldn't sing anymore, couldn't really talk, and God kept me hidden, essentially, for this 10-month treatment that I went on to get better, and I was really confused because I took a gap year thinking that I was going to just start my career, and then it was completely put on pause, and then COVID happened in the middle of that, so it was just a very, very long season of what is happening and why are you doing this, and I had a prophecy that was spoken over me when I was a kid about being in this specific industry, that I was going to do something really big with my voice for this industry. And now it just kind of felt like this prophecy was not actually true. And I didn't really understand why I would have grown up and had a passion and a dream for this, for it to just be taken away right when it was going to start. So I really struggled with God for that 10 months. And that's kind of when Allison came back in, and we struggled together, and we got through those seasons together. And God just taught me how to stand strong in his promise. And he kept reminding me that his promise and his word is true, and it is good, even if I can't see it, and even if I don't feel it. So that got me to New York. Eventually I got better, and he brought me here in like this crazy, unexpected way, like getting into school and getting a scholarship. And how I came to New York right after Allison was a huge thing. And then I was thrown into a school where there were not a lot of Christians, as most musical theater programs are. Mm-hmm. But my school was really, really small, so there wasn't even really a huge student body. I couldn't go find people with other majors that maybe had similar values or beliefs that I did. So I was really outcast. And in the class that I kind of moved around with, really there was no one that was as passionate about Christianity and the Lord like I was. So I kind of was in a place where it wasn't really being, I guess, respected is a good word for it. And that's where God kind of used everything that I had been learning in those 10 months being alone and being like spiritually built up and like putting on the armor of God, that he really tested it in that season of, are you going to stand your ground now? Are you going to continue to fight the good fight, even when I've said now, okay, you can be back in this industry? So, we're here, we're still doing it. And that's kind of a little bit about my testimony.
Yeah. And then you graduated a little over a year ago, in May of 2023. Yes, because it's 2024 now. And you've been working ever since. How has that been?
It's been really great, and a lot at the same time. Traveling all the time for work is so amazing, and I've seen all these awesome places, but it's also very hard. As we talk, my suitcases are on the ground off camera here because I'm staying with Allison because I don't have an apartment. And that's a huge thing I kind of expected with the actor life, but also wasn't prepared for.
Yeah, like living it out, you're like, what's going on?
Yeah, this like nomadic gypsy life has really taught me how to give up material things and live out of a singular suitcase for the entire year. And we're in July. I've pretty much been living out of my suitcase since February when I moved in with you. Mm-hmm. And then I went on contract, and then I was traveling, and now we're here, and I'm about to go on another contract. So for the majority of the year, I will have had just one suitcase with all of my belongings that I've been using. So that's been probably a big challenge for me, and especially coming from like the city background where I had an apartment and I had stuff, and felt like I had kind of this grounded home base. Giving it all up was a big lesson in materialism, but a good lesson. And I feel really happy and blessed to be able to do what I'm doing, because the alternative is being here and wishing I had a job and wishing I was acting and saying, God, why can't I do the job? Why can't I work? So I just try and be grateful for what he's given me in this season.
Totally. Specifically regarding your faith, what has it been like to be a Christian? I know you just mentioned that you had a lot of spiritual formation back home in California, but then also during your time in school was like a very spiritually forming and fortifying time for you. Do you feel like that helped prepare you for the industry? Or I don't know, what has it been like living out your faith after like entering the industry, especially, being on contract? You're not with someone for like 2 years. You have like a certain number of months to like grow close to people and different types of material that you're working on. And yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to just know how that has been. Has it been better than school? There's a lot of like segments to that question, but really just let me know how it's been.
Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of segments. I think you said living out your faith, and kind of, I want to start there.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, and when I was in school, a big part of it, I was so busy that there was a pretty good time period where it was like, oh, I don't have time to serve in church or go to church, or I don't have time to read my Bible every day or really be pouring that in. So it was finding other ways, but also being like pushing it off for, okay, well, when I graduate. And then as soon as I graduated, it was pretty much nonstop traveling, working, contract to contract kind of thing, that it doesn't ever actually become like I have time, or it gets easier. You just graduated. I'm sure you feel the same way of like, when are things going to clear up, when I'm going to have this time? I felt like they just never did. And so I kind of just made this commitment of, okay, the time will never come, but I need to make the time in order to be grounded. And in school, I started to do that. Like towards the end of my school, it was just so important to me because I saw the difference between when I was actively in the Word versus when I wasn't, and the kind of spiritual strength that I pulled from that. So it became very big when I went to London right after I graduated, and I was doing winter out there because there weren't any other Christians there, and I knew that I needed that time with the Lord, and I wasn't going to be able to be going to church and stuff, so I needed time in the Word by myself in the morning or at night. I would say like gotta go to sleep, whatever it was. And that kind of routine has been the biggest part about keeping active, even when I'm not here in New York, where I can like be in a home church or whatever. And especially when you're acting, like in a contract, you don't get Sundays off. You have rehearsal or you have a show, so you really can't go to church or get plugged in with a community group or whatever that is. So finding that time to do it is so important, and staying plugged in with this community. Like you and I are constantly talking, and my mom is a big spiritual part of my life. So talking with her about that and listening to sermons or doing those kind of things to really stay rooted in my faith. And then the next part of this is the talking to other people about my faith and being around people that don't necessarily share the same values or faith that you do. And that is a really cool opportunity. Can they hear this?
It's fine.
Okay.
We've had construction here before.
Part of the gig is being surrounded by people who have really been hurt by the church, or who really don't respect Christianity, think it's stupid or fake, or who share different values or beliefs about like the universe or themselves or different things like that. So navigating that has been really beautiful. Like getting to make friendships and speak into those areas of like, I know that this is a place where you feel really hurt, but it's not like, by our interaction, I don't want you to feel that way.
Yeah.
And not, obviously not sacrificing my beliefs or my values or what I know to be like absolute truth, but meet people in a place of love and compassion. That has been like really, really cool, that I feel like I've been learning the past year for sure.
Yeah, it's really cool. I always talk about, obviously, I call myself like ex-theater. I still love art and I want to create art and like my degrees and all of that, but like musical theater and stuff, I always talk about how I feel like, I mean, it's the same as any other ministry field. Like you have to be called to it to do it, like, and survive it. And so it's really cool to see how you've learned to like love people in the industry and my next question is kind of like, if you have any stories or testimonies about like how God has moved in the industry and ways that you've seen him. But I just think it's such a cool thing to witness that, because I think a lot of people believe that you either go into the arts or you move to the big city or whatever it is, and you lose your faith and you walk away from it, and like you can't do ministry and be in the arts. Like that's this big tension that I feel like a lot of the church still has. But the reality is, and this is so oversaid, I feel like, but the reality is that like Jesus would be there too, like loving those people in truth. Like there's a reason we all gravitate towards the arts, and it's because we are searching for truth. Like we want something that's real and authentic. We want the truth told back to us. And that's why art is so beautiful. And so to be able to go in and like love artists in that way, the way that you do, is really cool. And that kind of segues me into my next question, which is, do you have any cool stories of how God has moved, or like ways that you feel like he is going to move? Anything like that you want to share?
Yes, I do. I think the biggest thing is in my last contract. Okay, in my last contract, I just got off doing a new show called Mad Hatter. Plug. Go find my Instagram and look at it. I went into it because I was kind of recommended by the director, who's become one of my best friends. I feel like maybe I should start there. Yeah. Okay, so Joe, if you're watching this, I'll send this to you. He was my professor in college, and he was someone, he's not a Christian. He doesn't share my same values, but we have such a healthy respect for each other and a love for each other. And through school and through like kind of butting heads, the Lord really just showed me favor in his class and with him. And I really prayed about it, because he was such a hard teacher. I really didn't like him. He didn't like me very much, I didn't think, in my first year. And when I got into the second year, I was just like, God, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I need favor here. And that's exactly what happened. By the end of my second year, we had like a beautiful friendship, and he has hired me multiple times and become one of my best friends. And so he got me into this show, Mad Hatter, and I show up, and there were so many people that were Christians there in all different stages and walks of Christianity, and different, like, I guess, sects and backgrounds. Mm-hmm. But there were three or four. There were three that I knew about going in, and then five others, or not five others, but five total that I ended up like finding out about through our time together. And it became really cool because the show process was crazy. Most rehearsal processes are really crazy and scary and overwhelming. And usually I'm doing that alone, of like getting up in the morning and doing a Bible study and then going into the crazy and trying to like keep a calm mind. But this, we were like, let's start a Bible study. And everyone was super receptive to it. So we would show up. I'd send like a little text and be like, if anybody wants to join us, and people would just show up an hour before rehearsal, and we would get into the word. And people that were Christian and people that weren't Christian, they came just to be with the cast before we all went over and kind of had a very draining day and talk about problems and receive prayer and different things. And through that, I became so closer than I have on other contracts with the people there, because we could really just talk about theology, but also being a Christian in the industry, and share that struggle and that burden there, and pray over the entire creative team and the entire cast, and pray into specific people's lives and problems that we were hearing about in people's personal lives. We were like, okay, well, we all know them. Let's like get together and specifically pray for these people today. And I just saw like everything start to change in the cast. Yeah, it was so amazing. There was this one day where something came up in one of the dressing rooms, and somebody was having a really hard time. And our entire dressing room, people that were not Christians and Christians, came, and we all prayed over this one girl. And just to be a part of that, and to kind of have that responsibility, because I was kind of leading that, let's get together and do a Bible study and let me plan this and plan that, was a lot, considering that it's the industry and you don't want to like have people think, oh, you're just pushing your beliefs on us, or you're this or you're that, or why are you bringing that into the workplace? But that wasn't the case.
Right.
And it led to really hard conversations. It led to really, I don't even know, like hard, but good hard.
Yeah.
Things that we both left being like, I completely understand your point and you understand my point. And maybe nothing changed between our differing opinions, but now we both have things to think about.
Yeah. The seeds were planted.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was cool. That was probably the biggest thing. And I really hope on this next contract that I'm going to, that I can kind of cultivate the same kind of culture, maybe not in the same way and not in the same like growth, because there were just so many people that had seeds planted in them, even if they weren't Christians. But it was like, oh, well, my mom is a Christian. Maybe I should come to this Bible study. I really want to. Like, can you just tell me a little bit more about that? Or my husband is a pastor, and just different things like that that just kept coming up that caused Mad Hatter to be a very spiritual contract for me. And I hope to bring that now into the other contracts now that there's been something that's been so big. So yeah, be praying for that, please.
Yeah, totally. I feel like it'd be so cool if you started like it's okay, like view it as like a traveling ministry, and like actually there's nothing to start because it's just you. Like just you like going on contract, but like learning how to host the presence of the Lord. And I don't know, I just feel like that's really the prospect for like our generation and how we inhabit. I feel like Gen Z specifically is like inhabiting these harder like spheres and just hosting the presence of the Lord. And like, I mean, obviously it sounds like even just like you were saying, to take that devoted time before rehearsal every day, the way it changes everything is so powerful. And it really, I don't know, like maybe it was hard for you or like logistically challenging at times, but like to know that, oh, all I have to do is like give some time to God every morning, and he'll move like in these crazy big ways. And I don't know, I'm just imagining like this, like it's like spreading to every contract, like, oh, we were over here in Arizona and like the seeds were planted, and then a lot of us are gonna like encounter each other later down the line, and like that will just continue to grow and like bloom. And I don't know, I'm like visioning like this map, and it's like watercolor, and it's all just like spreading across the map, because I feel like that'd be super cool. But
yeah, I think it would be really cool to like kind of design a little Bible study, because most contracts are like 2 months, 2.5 months ish. So if it was this basic overview, tailored specifically for the crazy things that happen on contract and just the stress, and inviting God into not only just like the first part of your day, but into the rehearsal space and into that, to me, that's been the biggest game changer, because when people are starting to freak out because it's tech and all of these things are going wrong, you have this peaceful and calm presence, because it's the Lord just like showing up and being like, it's okay, I'm here, I'm here. And that's what people see, and that's what makes people want to come and talk to you in tech and ask questions and get to know that more. So that would be cool. Another like quick story, and this was just a big encouragement for me, but I was at an audition in Memphis in February, and I was sitting there with my Bible, and I was about to go audition into this room, and it was a big like cattle call audition, UPTA. If you're an actor and you're watching this, it was UPTA. And I walked by these girls that were sitting there with their Bibles open and just praying over the people that were on stage doing this huge audition, people that they didn't even know, and people that were on the stage didn't know that they were praying for them, but they were praying over everybody and being like, Lord, they were just like in this spirit of prayer. And I pulled up my Bible. I was like, wait, but I have mine too. And so I made friends with them, and that was such a big encouragement to me, that there are still people, even if we're in an industry that on social media is a very worldly industry, there are still so many creatives that have this spirit of prayer and the Holy Spirit like trying to move in those spaces. And I think that is just what I want to cultivate more. I've said that like 3 times now, but it's so cool to see, so encouraging to be a part of, and what I want to do, like you said, in every space I go to.
So good. So beautiful. And such a cool story. It makes me think of the Hang, actually. For those that don't know, the Hang is an artist ministry in New York City. But we just need like more of that, I guess. And I think about how they, like, if you're tapping into that deep well and like finding connection, then you guys are able to, like, I guess I'm just repeating what you said at that point, to cultivate that, like, and I do think that's something like the industry has not had for so long, and so that it's the fact that it's coming now is like really cool.
To me, the Hang changed the audition rooms, the Pearl Studios and Ripley Greer and stuff. You're waiting sometimes for 8, 10, 12 hours. You're waiting so long to maybe be seen, and you have 1,000 other girls that are also waiting, and they pretty much all kind of somewhat look like you and can sing the same things, and they all have the same book, like songs in their book and stuff. And it's such like a anxious feeling being in there, and everybody is kind of like, you know, scratching, itching, like really just freaking out. But then somebody walks in and they're from the Hang, and you go, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. Let's talk about that Bible study that just happened. And that has happened so many times. So for me, that's been such a big game changer in those spaces. So it's, like you said, it's going to start showing up. I know it. I know that there are so many people working from different angles in the industry, and the Lord is moving and changing and just doing really, really big things.
Amazing. Do you have any tips for Christians who are either already working in the industry or entering the industry? This could be things you've personally experienced or things that you've heard from these other Christians in these different circles, I guess, or you know what I'm trying to say, working in different angles. Tips and tricks.
So something that LB from the Hang told me when I first got into the Hang was make your lines in the sand now, before you start working, before you take your first contract, your hard yes and your hard no and your maybes, based on the contract or the people working in the space or whatever, and based on your own personal convictions. Like, there are certain things that certain projects Christians maybe just should not be saying yes to because it like blasphemes God. Like, don't say yes to that. Or, you know, like don't do work that you're not proud of doing as a Christian, that you want the message to, not that every story that you need to tell, not that every story that you tell needs to be Bible-based, Esther or whatever sight and sound shows are going on right now, but they shouldn't be a message that sheds a bad light on Christianity or says something opposite of what you believe in. But then there are the lines that are a little bit blurry, like Cabaret, for example, Sally, like roles that maybe are a little bit more promiscuous, but that if you don't like feel like, okay, as with my mindset, like this is what I would bring to that role or this or that. And so how can you draw your lines of like, I would totally play Sally, but I would say no to this and this in that show. I would not do this kind of choreography or this kind of, just different things that come up, and have them before you start working, and don't compromise on any of them, even if it's like a really good paying contract, or you're like, that one's not as bad as some of the other ones that you have, because as soon as you start compromising, you'll never stop, because the industry demands so much of you. It demands your time. The industry wants to be worshipped, And if you allow yourself to start compromising yourself, your identity, your values, you will start worshiping it slowly. And you will get so wrapped up, more so than you already do, when you start to kind of think about it as like, but this could help my career, or but this person really could help me or do something for me. Of course I can do that with them. All of those things really start to kind of eat at you and take your identity. So that's the big thing. But like practically that, wait, what was the question?
Advice.
Oh,
for
yes.
Christians.
Pause for me to, we can also cut that, right? Like,
oh yeah, no, we're gonna
snip
edit.
this.
Don't worry.
Yeah, because I totally just lost my train of thought.
You're fine. Take your time getting back.
Values. Did I tell you something else I was gonna say?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. So you said,
like, knowing your value.
Knowing your values. Crap. What were you saying?
I had something else I was gonna go on. It was about like getting caught in the kind of rat race of it, right?
Yes. Yeah. It was like, I guess you kind of just said it, like getting caught, like worshiping the industry.
Yeah.
But like trusting that God will be like sovereign, I think was like a big part of it. That's not probably helping.
Yeah.
I know, like, you mentioned Ecclesiastes, but I also know that was like the scripture. So I don't know if you want to like go. You can go into the scripture now if you want, but
yeah, you go that.
Yeah, if that helps you, like.
Okay.
We're at a good time. So.
Okay. Okay. And on like worshiping the industry, that's such a huge trap, and actually very easy to fall into, just because like most of the things in the world, it wants to be worshipped and it wants you to give yourself up completely. And so you do fall. I don't like this. I'm just repeating what I've already said.
No, you're good.
I know I was saying good things earlier when we were not recording.
I feel like one thing you did talk about was like that, like, I'm putting it in my own words, but like that His grace is like sufficient enough that even when you fall into that trap, like just get up and keep going and keep working towards it. Pull back and like remember the eternal perspective. And then, like you mentioned Ecclesiastes, how Ecclesiastes, like, all of our work is in vain. And work is good and we should delight in it, but, like, it's all in vain. Like, the one,
right.
like, reading that you do. Like, if you don't delight in it, it's not, like, oh, it might help your career, but, like, don't expect, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, that's not where your eternal, like, investment goes. Like, your eternal investment is, like...
Right, everything in
carrying God into that space.
Right.
I don't know. That's what I remember you saying.
Okay.
But
oh yeah. Also, I wanted to say too. My mom always tells me that you're gonna be rewarded by God a lot more than you will be by the industry. Mm-hmm. So saying no to certain things, God sees all that. Even if you feel like it's a bad career move. And you're like, but the connections that I could make, or the role is really great, or the pay is really great. Mm-hmm. God is still sovereign over the industry, even if it doesn't seem like it. He really is. Mm-hmm. And he sees that you want to honor him in that. And that's what's kept me working. That's why, like, he brings these opportunities to me. And the opportunities that he brings are ones where they bring the next one. Everything is all just... always ordained and kind of given to me in such a godly way that I can't even take credit for any of it.
Right.
None of my like work, and I do work, but like I'm not just waiting for it to happen, but God tells me like kind of what to do and where to go and what conversations to foster in relationships, and trusting in that, knowing that like you don't have to do all the work by yourself, because it's an industry that tells you that you need to be hustling every single day, and you need to go to every single EPA and every networking event, and you run yourself to the ground.
Yeah.
I've done that. during audition season, you know, like going to every single thing that you can go to and feeling like it's still not enough to get you where you need to be and what you need to be doing. You're never going to be able to do it all. You're never going to feel satisfied in it.
Yeah.
So when you kind of just accept that and decide that you're not doing this to be satisfied by it. You're not like going to all of the EPAs because it is going to be the fulfillment of your life. It is good to work. It is good to want success and to want to do things, but at the end of the day, it's all kind of in vain. And that's something that I've been really like loving lately is Ecclesiastes. I've been reading it over and over and thinking about myself this past year and working so hard at the beginning of this year and not getting anything from it, getting no reward, no like job offers or anything, and feeling like, what am I doing? This is all in vain. And then taking a step back and saying, but that's my priority right now and not my sanity or my relationship with God, and I'm not giving God that sovereignty. And then Mad Hatter happened and all of these things happened, and I went, oh, right, I'm not in this for myself. I'm not in this for my self-glorification or for the hustle or for getting myself to be on Broadway or the fame, the money. Like, it's not actually about that. And you can lose track of that, even if you think that, like, oh, yeah, I don't need to be on Broadway to be fulfilled. But you're always trying to get the next job or the next thing, like, notch in the ladder of your career. And at the end of the day, like, no one's going to remember how many Broadway shows you did. Nobody's going to remember anything about your career, but what they will remember is the one person on the contract that kept it cool, talked to them about Jesus once, and was a good person. That's what people are going to remember. So for me now, the biggest thing that I'm doing and learning is God is going to open the doors that he wants to open. He's going to put the right people in those contracts, and it's not my job to worry about it or be like pining after a callback or an opportunity and so like upset when the rejection comes, because I don't think you get rejected more in any industry than you do in this industry.
Oh yeah, no.
How many rejections was I getting in February? You know, like I couldn't even count. And you get so like butthurt about it, and you're like, but why am I not good enough? But I was so perfect for this. God, like, I thought this was the one. Like, you build this fantasy up of, yep, this is going to be the one. Like, God has put it in place, and you think you know what he's doing. You think you know what he's doing.
Right.
And then it doesn't happen, and you're like, oh no, the world is ending. But it's not.
Yeah.
And he knows so much better than we do. He's such a good God.
Yeah.
That's actually something we were talking about today, because we're in Hosea, and I was reading ahead. And at the end of it, he starts talking about the relationship of God with his people as like a father and a child, and how the father kind of like lets you go and figure things out, but you're still kind of on this like little leash of like, for your safety and for your own good, like, because I love you and because I have things planned out for you. So I think that God kind of lets me get really excited about certain things that I'm not going to get, and he knows, so that I kind of turn and go, like, what am I doing? Am I doing something wrong? And he's like, no, that's just not the right one. But it makes the yeses so much sweeter, and it makes the random opportunities that come about. I just know that they're from God then. It's not like, is this God or is this not God? Like, should I say yes to this or no? Because I know that he's protecting me and he's doing this for me. And so I think that's my biggest advice, is just to takes time to keep God at the forefront of it, but to continually do that and not allow yourself to get caught up in the craziness and the rat race as much as you can. And you'll have times where you backslide, but the good news is that his grace is sufficient. his mercy for us when we do that, and when we get caught up and we turn around and we go, but I thought, and he goes, no, but that's okay because I have something better coming. And you won't see what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, but sometimes the no's lead to a better yes. And one example I want to give on that really quickly is because I talked about Mad Hatter, and one of the guys that was in Mad Hatter that was a Christian, I actually had met him about 6 months before at an EPA, and he was the monitor of the EPA. And I remember I was like, oh, I'm getting this role. This is my show. This is for me. Everything's falling into place. And I didn't get it at all. But he remembered me. And we connected on Instagram before the first day of Mad Hatter. And out of the probably like thousands of people he saw in the couple days that they had, he was like, oh my gosh, you sang this song. It was so good. We loved you in the room. And I can't believe we're doing this contract. And I saw that you're a Christian and I'm a Christian. And that's what started the Bible study, was us talking.
Wow.
So
That's
like
really cool.
what a hurt, a very big hurt that I had
What
turned.
show was it? I mean, you don't have to say it.
The Little Women tour.
Oh,
I cried about it for like days.
I understand that, but also every single woman who breathes auditioned for that show.
I know, but I was like, God, it's gonna happen, right?
Oh goodness.
I was so sure it was mine.
Yeah.
Was not. But Andreas was there. And that is how the Bible study ended up being born, was because of that fostered relationship.
Yeah.
So the more that I do this, now being a year and a few months out, and I'm sure we'll just get more and more and more, but the more I see God ordaining all of it, and having a say in my career, and putting the right people in the thing. And now I'm kind of going in circles, but that is the biggest thing. Remembering Ecclesiastes, that you're not here for your Tony, you're here to make an impact in the industry. That's
And ultimately the kingdom of God, because the industry, okay guys, just hear me out for a second. I've talked to Ash about this so many times, but what controls mainstream thought? Media, like, well, hold on. Cut this all out. Okay. What?
Solomon.
Guys, I've had a long day at work, okay? All right. What controls the mainstream thought? It's the arts. It's theater and movies. It's Hollywood. It's TV. It's like YouTube. Like all of this new entertainment that we put out. That's what controls mainstream thought. Like in a way, it really does have a grip on our hearts and minds. Like we believe what we see. And so I feel like there's so much power in like turning the heart of the industry towards Jesus that would not only just make an impact in the industry, but also in our mainstream. Like I always use this example that you've heard me say a million times, but in the 50s and 60s in New York City, there emerged in the underground theater world an experimental movement that focused on a lot of basically rejecting any like Judeo-Christian beliefs or anything traditional. So it was rooted in like secularism, even like worship of the self. Like there was a lot of sexuality stuff coming out and like just very abstract thought happening. And it was rejecting what at the time was mainstream Judeo-Christian views. Well, now that's just the world as we know it. Because this grassroots movement changed the industry, the larger mainstream industry, 50 years down the line. And so imagine what would happen if you as a Christian, as if all the Christians who are working in the arts were to like host space for the Lord and start to like counter that thought of like, God hates me, the church hates me, whatever it is that like causes people, because that is so like such a prominent population of the industry is like people who have been hurt by the church or reject God because they don't know who he is. They don't truly know who he is because I believe they've heard like the mainstream lie about who God is. They haven't had a true personal encounter with Jesus. And so to have people there in the industry counteracting that, but like, imagine what that would do for like the next generation, and 50 years down the line, what would our mainstream look like? We say that the pendulum is always swinging, and obviously we don't want it to swing too far, but there is like room. Now is an optimal time to be actually like doing the work of Christ in places like this, because people are tired and they're hungry and they want to know the truth. Yeah. They're tired of being lied to. Gen Z loves authenticity. We crave it because we're the AI generation, the internet generation. Artists are getting mad about like new advances because it's taking their jobs. Like, we just want something real told to us. And so I don't remember why I got on this soapbox.
No, but I have something to speak on that. I think that the answer is not going to be, the answer to this, to show up in that space, is not to bring more shows that are like Bible based either, you know, because we have those shows, but you're not getting the industry there. You're getting people that are already Christians that are showing up and working in those, and then you're getting Christians to come watch those shows because they're like, oh, I want to see the story of David or the story of Jesus. Well, I mean, Jesus Christ Superstars, I guess, like, everyone goes to see that, and a lot of non-Christians work in that show, but it's not it's not like theologically all the way there. I'll just say that. I don't think, anyways. I don't know. Maybe we should cut that because I actually don't know.
I mean, I'll look it up while you talk.
Okay. Well, I do want to say, okay, I'm going to redo that just in case it's not.
Okay.
Rewind.
Just, yeah.
I think there's a big push from Christian creatives to create more content that's biblically based. And I think that there's a lot of room for that, and they should be, because people want to see Bible stories shown, and I would love to see that, like, visualized, and people that are new or that maybe have never read the Bible and they go with their friends and they see it and they're like, this is a cool story or whatever. But I don't think that that's the answer to the issue that you were just talking about, because the people that are primarily occupying that space in the creative realm are already believers or have that foundation, and it's not impacting the mainstream industry or the mainstream media in the same way. So I think that it is crucial to build yourself up spiritually, know who you are in Christ, and then go in like you're going into battle, keeping your armor on, but occupying a space where you're the minority and showing people that there is love and there is mercy, and there's a God that is big enough for your questions and for your debates and for your, like, for your issues, for your identity problems, and just the crises that you come into in life. There's a God that is big enough to handle all of that. I don't believe in a God that is not big enough for that. And so many people who think that they know about the Christian God don't believe in that kind of God. They believe in a God that is full of fallacy. And my God is not.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Keep showing up.
Yeah. No, that's so good. And it's so real. Like, I always quote Live Not by Lies. Always. But it really is a matter. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to quote Live Not by Lies. I'm going to reference Nehemiah. Specifically when he rebuilds. That is Nehemiah, right?
He's rebuilding.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I was just second guessing myself.
Nehemiah was the first Bible study we did together. You should know this.
I don't even remember what month that was in. No, I'm just kidding.
Allison hates our friendship.
No, yes. I would, yeah. Get out. No, oh goodness. Wait. Oh, she's committing to the bit. No. So, the story of Nehemiah and how he rebuilds the wall of Jerusalem in 40 days. You know what? I referenced this in the last episode. Guys, I'm just like a broken record, but it's fine. because it's real, and I'm just going to keep saying it because I know it to be true. Nehemiah rebuilds the wall of Jerusalem in 40 days, what scholars believe should have taken decades, a very long time. And it was a crisis because Jerusalem was unprotected. But all Nehemiah said was go out in front of your house and build what's right in front of you. Build the wall that's right in front of you. And so this idea of Christians going into industries like the theater industry or any type of like secular, like where you're the minority, like all you have to do is take your place on the wall and build what's right in front of you. It doesn't have to be this like crazy, great, impactful, groundbreaking piece of media, like you're saying. It doesn't even have to be that you've converted anyone, but to just stand there so that like someone is there saying like, I believe in the name of Jesus and I will invoke that here on set, in rehearsals, here in our housing. Like God so delights in that. And like what you're saying, like God is so much bigger than the things that we face. This is now turning into more of an encouragement for Christians, but he really is so much bigger. Like, do you believe that he is big enough to take a tiny, mustard seed of faith of like, I can't even like speak up about, these certain issues, but I love Jesus and I know he's here and I love these people because Jesus gave me the heart for it. Like God is big enough to take that and like move with it, and he will equip you. Like he equips the called. He doesn't call the equipped. So yeah, I think that's like a really good perspective to have, that like, Elizabeth Elliot says it, that all you have to do today is the next right thing. And if you don't do that, or if you don't know what that is, no, I'm sorry, I misquoted it. Elizabeth Elliot says, and I feel like a lot of Christian women know this, but it's all you have to do today is the will of God. And if you don't know what that is, just do the next right thing. And that relieves so much pressure. Like he doesn't want us to go out and take on the like culture war or whatever it is by ourselves. Like he just wants us to like stand there and like let him move.
Yeah.
Like host his presence, invoke his name.
Yeah. And
show
also,
up.
Just be the example of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing that Jesus did was go into spaces that weren't already believing in him. And when people did believe in him, he said, okay, it's time for me to go, because other people need to hear about this. Other people need the good news. So just staying in a realm or a community full of people that already believe and already have the same foundational truths that you do, that's a wonderful thing for you to be filled up. But what are you going to do with that? Where are you going to go with that? Go to the places and dine with the sinners the way that Jesus did. And show them, like, I'm a sinner too. I'm just as bad as you, but the Lord is so good, and he changed my life, and he can change yours too.
Yeah, that's it. That's the gospel. And we say this a lot on the Counteract podcast, but it's not about changing someone's mind on something political or some kind of worldview. It's about saying that there is redemption from even that. Like, God is a redemptive God. He's a God of justice. And we believe that. And like, that's why we want to share this with you. You may feel hurt by the church, but I'm here to tell you that God even redeems that. Like, I don't know. That's so good. Yeah, I'm so happy that you're able to do that and be there and just carry that responsibility, because it truly is a big thing.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah. Well,
I feel encouraged.
Yay, I'm glad.
This conversation has made me like fired up for the next one.
Yay. That's my goal with these, is to encourage you and to encourage others through you, or to let God encourage others through you, I guess, is what I should say. Oh, but anywho.
So how do we end this? How do we wrap this up?
Well, Ash and I wrote a song.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just kidding.
Solomon was a king.
Wise king. I don't know. You know it. You revisit the video more than I do.
That makes me sound like I watch it all the time.
You don't? No, I'm just
no.
kidding. Oh.
Not at all.
Thought you... I thought you had like the remix
week.
version.
We're going to put out an album. It's going to be called Song of Solomon. No, it's not going to be. It's going to be. Oh my gosh. Instead of like Song of Solomon, like the Bible book, it'll be like Solomon's Songs, the remix. And then it's just us singing about all of his things that he wrote. And starting with Solomon. Yeah. That's the song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone go read Ecclesiastes.
Yeah.
Said the world was gonna die. He got existential. That's what you said.
Oh, yes. And then what came after that?
It was, he got existential, said the world was gonna die. And then I started anyway. Nope.
You go.
Solomon!
And then it just cut. Oh my god.
Cue video.
Yeah, pretty much. So good. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. Yeah. And for being a part of this conversation. And yeah.
Thank you for having me. This was a long time coming. Like I said, this needed to happen.
Yeah, it really was. So I'm glad we got to do it. And I hope you, the listeners, were encouraged by this. I hope you have thought about some new perspectives. And if you guys need anything, first of all, if you're a Christian working in the industry, any sort of arts industry, and you want to connect with Ash, drop your plug.
It's at the Ash Alina, TheAshalina.
On Instagram. We'll have that link down below. And yeah, feel free to I'm just throwing you out there. Reach out to Ash.
Yeah, I actually would love that.
Yeah, reach out to Ash. As always, feel free to reach out to the Counteract Instagram to get plugged into a network, a cell group, anything like that, even just for prayer. You know the vibes. And lastly, I said this at the beginning of the episode, but please subscribe and give us a good rating and do all of the fun things to just boost our visibility, because it helps us provide more high quality content for you guys, i.e. getting an audio interface so I can do better interviews. All right. I mean, you know what I mean. Better audio quality interview.
And better people to interview.
Oh my gosh. No, that's not what I meant. But anyways.
She hates me.
Yeah, get out. Alrighty, guys. That is all for this episode. It was a long one, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I hope it was a good one. And I hope that you got some insight and some inspiration, especially for those of you who might be going into the industry as artists or who are in school and just not knowing how to navigate this. My goal is to empower Gen Z, especially in stuff like this. And so last week's, actually the past couple people I've interviewed, I think have all experienced like being a Christian and trying to maintain faith and stand on what is true in the industry. And they've been met with like the real pushback and the real like consequences of that. And so, yeah, I just hope that you found encouragement from this episode, that Ash's advice was good, that her story was inspiring. And if you are looking for more stuff like this interview and you haven't listened to my previous episodes, go to last week's episode. We interviewed Maggie Butera, who is just a powerhouse for the artistic side of the conservative movement right now. She's someone you definitely want to keep tabs on. And also my friend Grace, we actually did a 2-part interview right before Maggie. And that was just such an encouraging, like, it was all about testimony, the testimony of what the Lord did for both of us at our time, during our time at Marymount, where we went to college. So go check those episodes out if you haven't. And feel free, please, to send us people to interview if you have anyone that you are thinking of. And yeah, that's where we're at. That's a wrap on the episode. I'll see you guys next week. I love you so much. God bless.